My name is Samuel Stolzfus, and today I'm going to be giving you my leadership branding presentation. If I were being completely honest, I would say that I would rather do this in front of people than in front of a camera, but this is what we have, so I guess we'll give it a whirl. What makes a good leader? That's something that I've often asked myself, and a lot of people have asked over the years. In my mind, when I think of a good leader, I think of a servant leader. I think of people who do the things that nobody else wants to do. I think of people who do them without complaining and who just simply put others' needs and wants in front of their own. Now that's easier said than done. People often say that that's the type of leader they want to be, but that's not something that a lot of people can carry out and actually put into practice. Whenever I think of that, I often think of this story I heard of a pastor who was the pastor of a mega church, thousands of people in his congregation, and one Sunday nobody could find him. They were looking for him after the service and nobody could find him. Well, here he was cleaning the bathroom, and a congregation member walked up to him and said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? We have people who clean the bathrooms." And he looked up at him and he said, "No, I saw it needed to be done, so I just did it." That's what I want to be when I think of a good leader. That's the type of person that I think of when I think of a good leader. A person that will clean the bathroom without wanting anything in return, that is doing it selflessly, that's not doing it for his own personal benefit whatsoever. He simply saw a need, saw something that needed to be done, and he took care of it. To me, that's very impressive. That's very commendable. Chris Hadfield, a Canadian astronaut, had a quote about leadership that I really like. He said, "Ultimately, leadership is not about glorious crowning acts. It's about keeping your team focused on a goal and motivated to do their best to achieve it, especially when the stakes are high and the consequences really matter. It is about laying groundwork for others' success and then standing back and letting them shine." Now, that's pretty deep. I want to unpack that a little bit. Standing back and letting others shine. Good leaders, I think, know when to step out of the way. They can see when they're not going to be the best to perform something, and they put somebody else in place who is going to do great at that job. That's an effective leader. Leadership is not just about the big moments. Whenever somebody takes charge of a project, they're thinking about these glorious crowning moments that Chris Hadfield talks about. They're talking about moments when they get to stand in front of people once the goal is accomplished and receive all this glory. Leadership's not about those big moments. To me, leadership is about the small moments. It's in the details. And somehow, the small moments have a way of turning into the big moments. I've actually always been kind of a natural-born leader. Thinking back even to grade school and to sports and things like that, people have, for whatever reason, tended to kind of gravitate towards me and actually listen to what I have to say. And that's not something I've taken lightly. That's something I've taken pretty seriously, actually, because that can be a dangerous thing and it can be a good thing. It can be something that can be used for good, or it can be something that can be taken horribly wrong. I'm not really sure why that is. I guess I'm not afraid of taking risks, and I think I do a pretty good job of relating to people. I think one of my greatest gifts as a leader is that I have the ability to relate to and connect with almost anybody. I've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of people over my life, many older, many younger, some way more educated than me and some less educated than me. And somehow I can always find a way to relate to them. And I think that's huge in leadership. I think people want to be heard. People want to be understood. People want to have their opinions taken into consideration when you're doing things and making decisions. Going into some of the leadership theories, beginning with the great man leadership theory that was popularized in the 1840s, basically says that only men can be good leaders. This is obviously a very dated theory, and I do not agree with this one at all. I've known some women who can be some very good leaders, and who have many women who are very good leaders. Actually, Jacques Fresco had a quote that I like about this. He said, "I don't believe in the great man theory of science or history. There are no great men, just men standing on the shoulders of other men and what they have done." This is basically saying that no one can be successful on their own, which I 100% agree with. Whenever you find a great leader, you will always find good supporters who are in behind them. I think that's something that's always true. People can't do things on their own. They need help. People that try to do things on their own can maybe succeed at that for a while, but eventually they tend to get burned out. They tend to make mistakes, and it's just not a fun place to be. People can't survive on the top by themselves. They need help. The next leadership theory I want to talk about is the trait leadership theory, which was popularized in the 1930s, and it has a lot of similarities to the great man theory. The trait leadership theory says that basically only people born with certain qualities and characteristics can be leaders, that it is something intrinsic, that it's not necessarily something that can be learned, that it's you either have it or you don't. I think this is true to a point. I think leadership comes naturally more to some people than others, just like being athletic would come more naturally to some people than to others. Unfortunately, you can see if somebody is athletic versus somebody who isn't. I think the same is true of being a leader. That's not to say that you cannot improve. I think you can definitely improve on whatever you are given, but I think some people are more natural leaders than others. Just as the same way people are more natural athletes than others. They can improve their athletic ability by working on it. Some people are just naturally better at it. The next leadership theory, behavioral theory, came around in the 1940s and 1950s. This is created as somewhat of a response to trait theory. While the trait theory focuses more on mental, physical, or social characteristics, behavioral theory focuses on the behaviors of leaders. The behavioral theory divides leaders into two categories: those that are concerned with tasks and those that are concerned with people. I don't think those two things have to be mutually exclusive. I think you can focus on the task and the people at the same time. I think the best leaders do that, quite honestly. I think it's something that can be difficult, but I think the best leaders do that. You don't necessarily have to sacrifice the task to make people happy, and you don't have to sacrifice the people to accomplish the task. I think that if you can keep people happy, they will want to work for you or with you, and you will accomplish whatever task is at hand. And you'll have a lot of fun doing it. It's a better way of leading to me if you can accomplish those two things. The contingency leadership theory argues that there is no single correct way of leading and that all leadership styles should be based on specific situations, which signifies that there are certain people who perform at the maximum level in certain places, but at minimal performance when taken out of their comfort zones. The times when we see this play out are the most in crisis situations. Let's take, for instance, a hurricane, where things are going wrong. There's not necessarily a leader in the town. Well, that's not true, there's mayors. I guess that was wrong. But let's say that there's a group of people and something goes wrong where there's not a specific leader in place. Typically there'll be one or two people that kind of step out and naturally take that leadership role. This is basically what the contingency leadership theory is talking about. Moving on to transactional theories, which were made popular in the 1970s and also known as exchange theories of leadership, as characterized by a transaction made between the leader and the followers. This theory values positive and mutually beneficial relationships between the leaders and the followers. For this theory to be effective and have motivational value, the leader must find a way to align the values of whatever they're trying to accomplish with the values of the followers. This is basically something where if I'm the leader and you're the follower, we can both benefit in this situation. We have something to lose, we have something to gain. We both gain if we succeed, we both lose something if we fail. I think this is a good place to be. With this, we're more likely to associate ourselves with individuals that add to our strengths rather than detract from it. In the next year, I have some goals. Um, I want to be successful. And what I mean by that is that I want to make a positive difference in the lives of people around me. Not only people that work for me, but also my customers, my friends. Excuse me. I want to make people's lives better. I want to do what I can to make them have a more positive experience working with me and for me. There are many words that come to mind when I think of a good leader, and I'm going to try to condense what I am aspiring to be into 6 words. And the 6 words that I've chosen in no particular order are servant, respect, love, innovation, motivation, and inspiration. Let's dissect that a little bit. The first word I chose is servant. Going back to what I was saying at the beginning, thinking back to that pastor who was cleaning the bathroom, not expecting anything at all in return and just doing it because it needed to be done. That's what I think of when I think of servant leadership. That's the kind of leader I aspire to be. I aspire to be somebody who sees something that needs to be done and just does it without having to be asked to, without looking for something in return, without looking to gain something from it. I just want to do it because it needs to be done and because other people don't want to do it. That's the kind of leader I want to aspire to be. Something along those lines, a quote from Martin Luther King, he said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." That rings so true to me. Obviously, Martin Luther King is a man who was really an exemplary person who embodied servant leadership. So I really like that quote from you. You don't have to make a certain amount of money. You don't have to be well educated to serve. You can just serve. You can find ways to help people. The second word I chose is respect. I'm often asked the question, would you rather be loved or respected? And that's a tough question to answer for me. If I had to answer it, if I had to choose, I would say probably be respected. But I also don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I'm a firm believer that a leader that does a good job is somebody that can be loved and respected by his followers. The third word that I chose to describe what I aspire to be as a leader is love. John 15:13 says, "Greater love hath no man than this, than a man who lays down his life for his friends." Now in that context, excuse me, I believe they're talking about a man who literally gives up his life, who sacrifices his livelihood for his friend, somebody who dies for his friend. But I think it can mean so much more than that. I think laying down your life for your friend can be something as simple as sacrificing something that you really want for something that you know will make them very happy. Sacrificing your desires for the desires of another. Somebody that can do that will have many loyal followers and will be a powerful leader. The fourth word I chose was innovation. Without innovation, we become stagnant and complacent. Innovation is something that needs to be at the forefront of our thoughts in whatever we do. We should never say, "I'm doing it this way because it's the way we've always done." We should always, always, always be looking to push the envelope and see if there is a better way to do what we have always been doing. The fifth word I chose is motivation. I want to motivate people to be better. I want them to want the best for themselves, and I want to do my part in getting them to that place. Mark Twain said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bulliness, sail away from safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. That's the kind of thing I want to inspire and motivate people to do. I want to inspire and motivate people to not make the safe decisions, to take risks, to see what they can really do. The sixth and final word I chose is inspiration. I want to inspire people to be better and perform better than they think that they are capable of. I want to inspire people to exercise and improve their health. I want to inspire them to stick with the tasks that they've started but that has become difficult. I want them to finish it out. I want to inspire them to live to their greatest potential. Steve Maraboli said, "When you are living the best version of yourself, you inspire others to live the best version of themselves." That's what I want to do. I want to live the best version of myself so that people can see my life the way I'm living, and that people can be inspired to improve themselves and live their best lives with that. I want to be known for being a motivational, loving leader so that I can deliver results. That's my personal statement. Be a loving leader who delivers positive results. There are a lot of thoughts and ideas behind that, but that's the best way I can summarize the type of leader that I aspire to be. I want to put others first, and by doing that, I will deliver positive results for both my employees and customers and everyone around me. If I had to choose a leadership theory that most closely resonates with me, I would say it is probably trait leadership theory. Like I was saying at the beginning, leadership is something that has come pretty naturally to me. I'm usually fairly self-confident and willing to take risks, and that's something that people tend to gravitate to, I guess. Like I was saying earlier as well, I don't have a hard time relating to people. No matter your age, demographic, I can find something and I can relate to you over it. And if you can relate to people, they're gonna follow you. So I want to continually improve myself, how I interact with people, how I lead people, and I never want to be satisfied in where I am as a leader. Thank you for your time.